Hello, thanks for joining us today. I'm here with Jeet, CEO of Newgen Software, a software company that helps banks in their digital transformation journey. Today, I'm going to be talking with Jeet about the digital transformation journey and why banks need to modernize today. Jeet, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start by you just giving me a little bit of information about Newgen Software, when it was founded, what industries you're serving.
Great. So, we are a 25-year-old company. We got founded in the early 1990s and was founded by two promoters who are typically product guys. A rare thing in India. We were typically, the Indian subcontinent is known for services, but product is what we played on. We started with our focus on enterprise content management, business process management, and customer communication management. These are three product lines, and we have continued so far, gained global recognitions. We're pleased we build a business of more than 500 clients globally, operate roughly around in customer base of 70 countries, do have a global presence. And as the business, you understand, the financial services are the largest spenders. We also pivoted more towards that, and banking is predominantly our largest segment. It is, in fact, 70% of our business comes from banking and insurance today.
So when did you move into the US market, and when did financial services become a focus for the firm?
The financial services, it organically evolved. I think our initial customers wins were all around financial services, some large and some very localized to markets. We have been in US market for some time now. It's almost like 7-8 years. But the way the journey unfolded has been predominantly we went as horizontal product play, and as the customers started adopting our products, and some of the best use cases and where we could deliver a lot of value was in financial services, especially with industries which are more content centric and process centric. I think there is a more resonance for our products. US, we have got the foothold. We have got roughly around 70 customers, which is across segments, but predominantly again in banking and insurance. And our whole endeavor is to really accelerate in this market.
That's great. So tell me a little bit about how you're enabling the banks.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think at different times the stories change, and I think we started with one of the core problems about what was earlier called something like centralization, and all banks were trying to centralize operations for efficiency, for scale, and we helped in that journey. We were some of the first guys who were providing the backbone software for most of the outsourcing when it was happening, both in financial and non-financial services. We also were instrumental in building some of the very, very large central offices so the use case was very simple, that rather than really having a lot of competencies in your branches, if you centralize them, you could process faster, you could have a better turnaround times, you could have better efficiency, you can have more regulated workflows implemented. And those were the use cases. And the customers were both global banks, which typically had a lot of interest in setting centralized shared services, and also regional banks, which typically wanted to create their own back offices. And that's one part of it, and I think it has pivoted. Sorry, this is going to be a bit long answer. So this is one part. The second part is what happened after digital picked up. It was more about digital journeys in terms of how do you get omni-channel engagements, how do you get more mobile engagements with clients. And lately, I think what we are doing right now is more interesting. We are really a tool to really connect the front office, middle office, and back office. We see a lot of digitization happen in silos across these places. But streamlining and finding the value which is lost between interchanges, that is where our the process orchestration platform, the low-code technology, and our richness in the content services, which plays a very critical role to go and orchestrate that. And that's what we are doing, and we're excited about how the market is shaping in that area.
Yeah, so you kind of just answered my next question, but banks are all over the place with their digital transformation journeys, and some banks are further along, some are. What would you say to the banks that are trying to modernize? What would your message be, and what are the most important priorities that they should be thinking about as they take this journey?
One of the biggest challenges, what I have at least seen, and as you are rightly saying, different banks all banks are not same, and across boundaries and countries they have different challenges. But when you're looking at digital, people, you can't look at it in piecemeal as technology. Like if there's an onslaught of mobility, you can't look mobility in isolation and not have the back office. And so one of the biggest things what we think the challenge banks is that when they look at digital journeys, they are responding to either the need of the customer or need of the market, as you say, or the competition in terms of they want to be relevant, and sometimes also the regulator. And so in that case, responding to that need in the fastest possible way is become the most important thing, because the use cases start becoming irrelevant if you end up having a year, 2 year. Okay. So if you need to choose a base set of technology and tools on which can become enabler of such use cases. So it can't be one thing you can think about, there's a problem in one retail journey, let me fix it, and then you have tomorrow a problem in commercial, you want to fix it separately. You need to have more fundamental architecture in place in terms of which becomes the change enabler, which becomes the innovation platform for you. And one of the biggest challenges I have seen many projects either not succeeding or not delivering value is the timeline. People end up, and I think this has become more challenging in larger customers and mature markets. Their timelines are too extended for really to make meaningful sense for the business. The technology stack has changed, the customer experience and their expectations change very fast. So I would say that, hey, please make sure that you're enabling yourself with tools which can make you react faster to the customer or to your competition or to the regulator, because the time is just running out in this era.
Yeah, it's really hard for these big banks to pivot so quickly, and like you said, it's just moving so quickly. Just staying on this topic for a minute, what part of the journey do you think is most important? Is it the front end? Is it the customer facing? Is it modernizing your back end office? Like where do you think banks need to focus most of their energy?
It's again a difficult question, and I think different banks are again at different stages. Yeah. And customer experience and engagement is the most important thing, because most of the use cases do start from that. And now that as the use cases are becoming slightly more low touch or completely no touch, it's almost system and customer. That's all what are they engaging. The back office is slightly diminishing, but the journey has to be run through. You got all the way right from the core to the front end. You need to connect that. So I would say that you need to look at how you are servicing the customer and engaging with them as the first priority, but not make sure that the use case is not built in isolation. You completely solve the problem. You get the whole journey through. So your mind share should be always on solving the whole journey of a customer, but looking at the best way the way you can engage with the customer to solve the journey. And what's important also, because a lot of technology has got developed over a period of time, which really enables you either to do more straight-through journeys or use technology to really service customer fast. So integrating all that together to make the best possible use case which has at least a life, and then your ability to react to the change. Because today, if you could build the best system, and again in 4 months you feel it's slightly irrelevant in terms of either competition or what customers demanding, or you want to segment the customers in a different, you want to launch a new product in that segment. Can you react to that fast?
So you touched on this in the last answer too, but I want to just dive in a little bit more. Sure. What is an ideal timeline? And I know obviously every bank and the size, it all matters, but you say that that's a big challenge. What would you say is the timeline that banks should be looking at?
I think from my own experience that, in the beginning of the projects, all customers, vendors are very aggressive that let's do it in weeks and months. But I do think there's a for even a complex product, if you're like retail journey modernization for a particular product, if you're not able to deliver somewhere into 6 to 9 months, I think you lose interest. You lose interest of stakeholders, you lose interest, or you lose value of the solution itself, because the changes are happening in the environment where you don't think now what you're going to get is going to be so relevant. So I would say, at least from my experience, I've seen anything on 6 to 9 months is a good cycle. Of course, there are some use cases which can be done much faster. Yeah. And one thing we need to understand, at least what we have done globally with our customers, your first couple of use cases can take this time, but then after that, your subsequent use cases should be much faster. Those journeys should be in a couple of months or 3 months, 4 months. It can't be like again 7 months.
Yeah, a lot of variables, but makes sense. You don't want anybody, it loses steam after a while for sure. So just switching gears a little bit, let's talk about AI. Everybody in the banking industry loves to talk about AI and what it means and how it can help, but also what it means to stay compliant, and that's a big piece of it. So first, why don't we just start with how AI is helping banks transform today?
I think AI has been around for some time, and it has been used in certain parts of the banking and insurance in all cases, and there have been products, but it was almost AI inside. You would not see it as a use case. What has happened since the conversational AI or the large language models it has renewed the whole interest in the ecosystem. This CXO suite is looking at more possibilities. They're challenging the status quo more aggressively, I would say that, which has really put a lot of interest in renewed. So the way I say it, with this renewed interest, what's going to happen? There's a huge advantage of transforming back offices through language models in customer service. That's one. There is a great opportunity to look at engagement channels. So what's going to happen? The consumer behavior is going to be changing very fast because of what is happening in the generative AI space. They're going to demand have similar expectations as enterprise systems. So I don't think you will be able to resist that as an enterprise, or as a society will not be able. The change is going to happen. But when it comes to really using AI for decision making, those are the areas where you got to be very cautious. You got to open up AI. You got to really make it what we call transparent AI. In terms of decision variables have to be opened up. They need to be audited. They have to be verified. You have to handle the ethical and moral questions about, and then you have to also look at regulators are looking at this area very, very critically right now, and they are creating frameworks by which you could do it. So I would say there are every area and line of business there's an opportunity. The best quicker values will be about servicing and what you call engagement, and the more complex subjects would be about decision making. And those would be typically going, larger banks would slightly go slow. In fact, all banks are going slightly slower on the decision making because they want to make sure that they're doing the right thing.
With the decision making, they will certainly need human interaction to make sure that everything there is working as it should be, or at least for now. That brings me to another point that I wanted to just talk about a little bit. How do you make sure that these models are correct and not, I hear stories of hallucinations and different things happening. How do you make sure that the AI model that you're working off of is accurate?
So again, I said there are two parts of. I think when you look at conversational AIs, and so there are a lot of emerging areas happening. The stack is getting expanded every day. There are a lot of benchmarks. So you have mechanisms to do it. But I think the current maturity is people are just excited about what they are seeing and what they are feeling rather than how the job. So as soon as they start deploying it to a job, they understand the job is more complex. Recently, we launched 2 products in generative AI space in terms of Marvin, which is typically augmenting capabilities to create assets within. But as you rightly said, those assets are built almost in an edit mode. So the Marvin suggests something and then the operator takes the final decision. So those variables get addressed out there. Similarly, we created a product on what you call n is equal to 1 personalization engine. It's typically hyper personalization it could be for product recommendations or any other recommendations. And again, out there, the decision variables are made more transparent to the business users about how they're going to use them, whether they want to take the decision variable in the conversation or drop it. So there are technologies and tools to make sure that you sort it out. But if it comes to core decision making, which is typically based on large data sets, there are risks, and I think that's where people are going slightly slower on those use cases till there is a more clear path of how they are going to solve it. Nobody has an absolute correct answer for that right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes good sense. So just getting back to the compliance issue, you said it yourself, there's a lot of audit around the decision making when that becomes into play. What would you say to banks that are worried about compliance? I have heard, honestly, conversely, that AI can actually help in some ways with compliance because it's very uniform and you can know what to inspect in certain areas. But what would you say about the audits and the compliance that banks worry about all the time?
I should confess I'm not an expert on the compliance and audit, but what I understand, what you rightly said, so AI as a tool can process information much faster, like any other compute tool. So in terms of discovery, AI can help. Generative AI can help you a lot in discovery, compliance related issues. But when it comes to about the regulators' concern or compliance concerns around decision making, as I said, or risks, those systems are slightly maturing right now. We are really excited to provide our end users about what you call content summarization discovery. We're working in some of the markets with regulatory authorities about areas which are around case management. Typically, you have complex cases of approvals, typically, if somebody is applying for a license. And some of the people who are in the process of approvals are typically who have deep domain understanding over multiple years, and the enterprise relies on that, the whole ecosystem relies. How do you scale it? Tomorrow, if the government or a regulator wants, let's shrink the time of regulations. Let's say that you need an approval time to be shrunk from 15 days to 5 days. How do you do it? So that's where AI augments those people only. So it is assisted AI in some ways, in those cases. So some of these cases will be interesting because it will help the person to do his job better rather than take away the job.
That's right.
The cases where you're trying to take away the job will be typically put in scrutiny. You have to validate them much more tightly, and the solutions will emerge. I don't think anybody has a perfect answer right now for that.
It's very exciting to just watch it all unfold. I want to switch gears again a little bit and talk about Newgen software. Tell me what you're excited about with Newgen software and how you're, what you're looking forward to with the banking industry.
So, first of all, I think we're lucky we are growing fast, and I think we have done a lot of hard work over many years. Some of those benefits are accumulating now in terms of people are recognizing our products and industry across markets. We have been growing by about 25 to 30% over last at least 8-9 quarters, and we can hope to continue that momentum. We are the few companies in product space which are able to generate great net margins. So the idea is to invest for growth. That's the whole purpose of how the organization has been built, to make sure that we make a large and service our customers. So we're excited about markets like US because today it's roughly around 25 to 30% of our revenue. But with the potential of US, we are looking at that's a great market to be there. But like technology companies are always excited about when there is a big disruptive change in the market, whether it's an AI, it's a mobility, social cloud. That really excites us, kind of use cases and kind of value you can deliver to customers. And those engagements with the customers are what really excites us in terms of, hey, how can we help those enterprises to really service customers better, really optimize their businesses. And in that whole space today, I'm personally excited about what's happening in AI space and how it's transforming all the use cases, challenging all the status quos which have been built over a time. And that's a great play and we'll like to help our customers with that.
So what products are your customers mostly engaged in with you in the banking space?
Predominantly, what we do is, on the horizontal platforms for banking space, we have built core vertical, what we call accelerators or products in that space. So we do a lot of work on retail across lines of products, and so that's one. We also do some work in terms of SME, small and medium business, which is typically called MSME, globally SME out here. We're excited about a product in trades, and we're looking at some of the very large customers globally are replacing their trade products and taking our product. Again, with the same advantage in terms of the engagement, what we can drive with the customer, the straight through connecting all this front and back end, and we are able to provide great value out there. So banking space, we have got around 4 or 5 core offerings, which has got also multiple sub offerings, and those are what are driving also the growth for the company right now, apart from insurance vertical.
Jeet, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your insights.
Thank you very much for having me, and looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day.